I never thought a casual day could change the rhythm of my thoughts. I was in my mid-20s, balancing a job and my studies, always rushing from one thing to another, with little time to notice the small details around me. Life felt like a checklist of responsibilities, and though I smiled often, deep down I carried a quiet insecurity about myself. I never considered myself the kind of woman who turned heads. My reflection in the mirror never felt like enough, and I had grown used to brushing off compliments with disbelief. It was on one of those ordinary days, filled with errands and unfinished work, that I first spoke to him. He wasn't the type of person who stood out because of appearance. It was more about how he carried himself. Calm, thoughtful, with an ease that made you notice his presence without him needing to demand attention. When our paths crossed for the first time, his politeness struck me more than anything else. There was no unnecessary charm, no rehearsed lines, just a genuine respect in the way he greeted me. Our first conversation was short and simple, nothing extraordinary on the surface, but there was something about it that lingered in my mind afterward. He asked questions that showed he was really listening, not just waiting for his turn to speak. He remembered tiny details even though we had just met. I caught myself wondering why it felt so easy to talk to him when I usually struggled to open up around new people. Over the next few days, I found myself recalling the way he smiled, how his eyes seemed to soften when he listened. It wasn't dramatic, but it felt different, as if I had stumbled into a space where I didn't have to try so hard. Still, my doubts followed me quietly, whispering questions I never voiced out loud. Did he see me as just another face in the crowd, or did I stand out in any way to him? I noticed little things about myself when he was around. The way I adjusted my hair absent-mindedly, the way my heart seemed to beat faster at the sound of his voice. These weren't the reactions of someone indifferent. I told myself it was silly, that I shouldn't read too much into it, but the truth was I couldn't stop thinking about him. He was kind without effort, and in a world where people often pretended, his honesty drew me in. That first week after meeting him, I realized how unusual it was for me to look forward to seeing someone again. I wasn't the type to believe in sudden connections, yet here I was, replaying moments in my head, wondering if he thought about me too. Somewhere deep down, an unspoken question began forming in my mind, though I couldn't imagine daring to ask it yet. Did he find me attractive, or was I just imagining something that wasn't really there? Days turned into weeks, and our interactions grew more natural, as though we had known each other longer than we actually did. What started with short exchanges slowly expanded into deeper conversations. Sometimes it was about work, sometimes about our families, and other times about the little things people often overlook. He had a way of listening that made me feel as if my words carried weight, and it was rare for me to feel that kind of attention from anyone. We began to spend more time together, not in dramatic ways but in simple moments. Coffee breaks became longer, and walking back from the office or class together became a routine. During those walks, he would share stories about his childhood, his ambitions, and the struggles he faced. I noticed how he spoke with honesty, never exaggerating, never hiding behind a false image. He was the same person whether he was speaking to me, to a colleague, or even to someone he barely knew. That consistency was something I had never truly valued before, but with him it stood out. I found myself admiring qualities in him that went beyond appearance. It was in the way he remembered what I had said days earlier, the way he noticed when I looked tired, or how he encouraged me when I doubted myself. He didn't overwhelm me with compliments, but every once in a while, he would say something simple yet striking. Once, after I laughed at one of his jokes, he said, "You should smile more often, it suits you." It wasn't said with intention to impress. It was genuine, and that sincerity made my heart race. Despite his warmth, I couldn't escape the quiet storm of insecurity within me. Around him, I often compared myself to other women. I wondered if he found them prettier, smarter, or more captivating. I asked myself why he chose to spend so much time with me, and though his actions suggested I mattered to him, my doubts clouded the truth. I would replay our interactions, looking for hidden meanings, analyzing whether his kindness was directed at me alone or just part of his nature. There were moments I almost asked him the question that lingered constantly in my heart. More than once, words rose to my lips only to be swallowed back at the last second. I feared sounding foolish or exposing my vulnerability. What if he didn't think of me that way? What if I ruined the ease of our friendship by asking something so direct? These thoughts weighed heavily on me, yet at the same time, his presence brought me comfort I hadn't known before. Through all this, one truth became clear. He had already changed the way I saw myself. For the first time, I felt that being valued didn't depend on how perfectly I looked but on how genuinely I connected with someone. And though I wasn't ready yet to speak the words out loud, the question inside me kept growing louder with every passing day. One evening, after a long day, we found ourselves walking together again. The city around us was quiet, and the usual noise of life seemed softer than usual. For reasons I couldn't fully explain, I felt a weight pressing on me, the weight of words I had been holding back for too long. The question that had followed me silently now begged to be spoken. My heart pounded as I tried to steady my breathing, knowing that if I didn't ask, the uncertainty would keep haunting me. I hesitated at first, searching for the right moment, but I realized there would never be a perfect time. Gathering courage I didn't know I had, I finally let it slip out, almost in a whisper. I asked him if he found me attractive. The moment the words left my lips, I regretted them. Silence filled the space between us, and I felt my chest tighten. I wondered if I had just ruined everything, if I had crossed a line I shouldn't have. He stopped for a moment, turning to look at me. I could see that he was not surprised but thoughtful, as if he wanted to choose the right words. Those few seconds felt endless. In my mind, I prepared myself for a polite answer, maybe a gentle dismissal, anything that would confirm the fears I had always carried. But instead, he spoke with a calm sincerity that broke through every wall I had built around my heart. He said I was the loveliest woman he had ever met. Not because of any single feature, not because of surface-level beauty, but because of how I made him feel. He told me that he admired my kindness, the way I listened, the way I cared about people around me. He mentioned how he felt at peace when he was with me, how my presence gave him a sense of comfort he didn't find easily. He admitted that yes, he found me beautiful, but it was more than that. It was the whole of who I was. Hearing those words was overwhelming. For years, I had lived with doubts about myself, believing that my value depended on how I looked to others. Yet here was someone telling me that I was more than what I saw in the mirror. My throat tightened, and I struggled to hold back tears. It wasn't just about being told I was attractive, it was about finally being seen for everything I was. We continued walking, but everything felt different after that. The unspoken barrier between us had broken, and in its place was a quiet understanding. I didn't need grand gestures or dramatic declarations. That simple truth was enough. In that moment, the question that had haunted me for so long no longer mattered the way it once did. What mattered was the certainty in his voice and the warmth in his eyes. I believed him, and for the first time I believed in myself too. After that night, something shifted between us. The doubts that once clouded my mind slowly began to fade, replaced by a sense of calm I had never truly felt before. His words echoed in my thoughts, not as fleeting comfort but as a truth I carried with me. For so long I had measured myself against impossible standards, convinced that beauty was something fragile, something that could slip away at any moment. Yet his perspective taught me that love was never about fitting into an image. It was about the way two souls recognized each other. Our bond grew deeper in ways that didn't require grand declarations. It showed itself in the ordinary moments, in the laughter we shared over small things, in the support he offered when my days felt heavy, and in the comfort of silence when no words were needed. With him, I realized that love wasn't about constant excitement or dramatic gestures. It was about finding someone whose presence felt like home. As time passed, my own view of myself began to change. I stopped hiding behind comparisons and started embracing the qualities I once overlooked. The kindness I thought was invisible, the patience I considered unimportant, the little quirks I used to criticize. All of them in his eyes were part of what made me who I was. His steady reassurance became the mirror through which I finally learned to see myself differently. Not because he defined me, but because he reminded me that I had always been enough. What surprised me most was how love, when it is genuine, does not demand perfection. It accepts flaws without hesitation, celebrates strengths without envy, and nurtures growth without fear. I learned that true attraction is not limited to appearances. It is rooted in respect, admiration, and the unshakable feeling that you are valued exactly as you are. That lesson stayed with me, becoming one of the greatest gifts of our relationship. Looking back, I smile at the memory of that vulnerable question I once asked. At the time it felt terrifying, but it led me to the answer I had needed all along. Not only did he see me as beautiful, he saw me as whole. That realization reshaped the way I approached life, giving me confidence to walk with my head held higher, to believe in my worth without waiting for others to confirm it. Our story didn't need to be extraordinary to be meaningful. It was built on honesty, trust, and the quiet certainty that we had found something rare in each other. And though every love story is unique, the lesson within ours is universal. The right person doesn't just tell you you're attractive, they show you through their actions that you are cherished, respected, and deeply valued. In the end, love is less about being admired for how you look, and more about being embraced for who you truly are.